The gap between people who stay broke and people who build real wealth isn't intelligence. It isn't luck. It's psychology. And most of the beliefs running your financial life right now were installed before you were even old enough to understand what money was. Here are 6 of them, and how to break each one. 1. The money script. Every financial decision you make, the job you take, the price you charge, how guilty you feel buying something nice, is being run by a subconscious money script you almost certainly didn't write yourself. Financial psychologists have identified 4 of them. See which one sounds familiar. The money avoider believes money is bad and that they don't really deserve it. They quietly sabotage their own success, gravitate toward low-paying, helping work, and feel guilty wanting more. If you grew up hearing rich people are greedy, this is probably your script. The money worshiper believes money will fix everything. They chase it obsessively, but never feel like they have enough, always certain that the next number will finally bring happiness. The money status type ties their self-worth to their net worth. They overspend to keep up appearances, hide their real finances, and feel a quiet panic whenever someone nearby seems wealthier. Research links this script to some of the lowest well-being scores of all 4, because the comparison never stops. The money vigilant type saves obsessively, lives well below their means, and is often secretive about money, but never actually feels secure, no matter how much sits in the account. Picture Jordan. On the outside, Jordan's life looks comfortable. Steady income, a nice enough apartment, nothing to worry about. But every time income dips, even slightly, for reasons that don't touch day-to-day life at all, Jordan starts cutting things, canceling plans, telling the team to trim the budget just in case. The lifestyle never actually changes. The anxiety just quietly runs the show in the background. That's what an unexamined money script does. It doesn't announce itself. It just makes the decisions for you. How to break it. Write down your earliest memory involving money. What did the adults around you say about it? How did they act? That's your script. Once you can see it, you can write a new one. Something like, money is a tool that creates freedom and lets me help people. And start feeding it evidence instead of fear. 2. The wealth ceiling. Here's an uncomfortable truth. A $200,000 opportunity will get sabotaged by someone who still sees themselves as a $50,000 person. Self-concept works like a thermostat. If your internal setting says $100,000, you'll unconsciously work to stay near it, spend more if you go above it, scramble to get back if you fall below it. Picture Jordan again, years into a career capped at a certain income, not because better opportunities never show up, but because every time one does, something gets in the way. A new competitor appears and suddenly all the extra money goes toward competing with them instead of banking the gain. Or the promotion finally lands, and instead of relief, there's a wave of, what if I mess this up? Enough anxiety to make the raise feel like a threat instead of a win. That's not bad luck. That's a thermostat resetting itself. How to break it. Fold a piece of paper in half. On one side, finish this sentence honestly. I'm the kind of person who overspends, underspends, saves too much, saves nothing, whatever's true. On the other side, write, I'm the kind of person who builds and manages wealth with ease. You don't have to feel it yet. Just stop being repulsed by it. Read it before every money decision. The identity moves first. The income follows. 3. Buying liabilities instead of assets. Most people were trained to consume, not to build. Robert Kiyosaki put it simply in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The rich buy assets, the middle class buys liabilities and calls them assets. The rule is simple. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out. Run anything through that filter and it gets obvious fast. A car? Liability. Loses value the second you drive it off the lot. And gas, insurance, and maintenance keep draining you. The house you live in? Liability. Mortgage, property tax, insurance, repairs, and it generates zero income. A course that builds a real skill. Asset. It pays you back through higher earning power. A rental property, asset, monthly income, full stop. A designer handbag, liability. Depreciates, generates nothing. Business equipment, asset if it's driving revenue, liability if it's collecting dust. The wrong question is, can I afford this? The right one is, will this pay me back? How to break it. Pull up your last 10 purchases. Write asset or liability next to each one, honestly. Then, before your next purchase, ask the same question first. 4. The scarcity mindset. Scarcity thinking doesn't just cost you money. It makes you measurably worse at making decisions. When your brain perceives resources as scarce, your cognitive bandwidth actually shrinks. You stop planning long-term. You only see the next 24 hours. It's an old survival setting. There's only so much. If they have more, I have less. That logic made sense when the resource was a fixed pile of food. It makes no sense for money, which is created fresh every single day. But the brain doesn't know the difference unless it's retrained. This time, Jordan is early in building a business, sitting on maybe $50,000 a month in revenue, staring at a $40,000 a month coaching offer that could genuinely change the trajectory of the company. The scarcity voice screams, "You just started making real money. What if it disappears tomorrow?" The abundance voice answers back, "You went from $10,000 a month to 30 to 40. Next month is probably closer to 100, and this is how you get there." The one Jordan chooses to listen to determines which future gets built. In this case, betting on abundance was the decision that eventually made the business sellable for tens of millions. How to break it. Notice when a decision is coming from fear versus possibility. The instant the thought, "I can't afford this," shows up, reframe it. How could I afford this? That single shift moves you from protecting what you have to building what's next. 5. Loss aversion. Nobel-winning research from Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky found something wild. Losing $100 feels roughly twice as painful as gaining $100 feels good. That single asymmetry explains an enormous amount of financial paralysis, holding losing stocks, hoping they'll recover, staying in dead-end jobs, never negotiating a salary, avoiding investments altogether. The fear of loss simply outweighs the appeal of the gain, every time, unless you catch it happening. Jordan stays 2 full years longer than makes sense in a job that's clearly wrong, purely because leaving feels like losing something. Meanwhile, the job itself is quietly costing far more, in money, in energy, in years that won't come back. The safe choice was the expensive one the whole time. How to break it. Reframe every loss as tuition. Lost $50,000 on a venture that didn't work? That's not a loss. That's $50,000 spent on an education that pays off for the rest of your career. Once the frame changes, the loss stops running the show. 6. The time trap. Most people spend their whole lives trying to save money, and that's exactly what keeps them from making it. Money multiplies. Time doesn't. Here's the math. If your time is worth $100 an hour, anything you're doing that's worth less than $100 an hour is quietly costing you money, even if it saves you cash on paper. 2 hours cleaning the house instead of paying someone $50 to do it isn't a $50 win. It's a $150 loss once you count the 2 hours you could have spent earning at your real rate. Wealthy people buy back their time on purpose. Assistance, meal prep, cleaning help, not out of laziness, but because their hour is worth more elsewhere. And this isn't something that only makes sense after the money shows up. With barely enough revenue to pay a 6-person team, Jordan still makes an assistant the very first hire. because the freed up hours go straight back into the work that actually grows the business. How to break it. Take your annual income and divide it by 2,000 work hours. That's your real hourly rate. Then audit your week. Every task worth less than that rate is a candidate to delegate, automate, or drop entirely. The time you buy back becomes the time you reinvest into the $1,000 an hour work. Pick just one of these 6, not all of them. One. The one where you can already feel the most.